Only because I thought you reminded me of Jacobo.
Oh, that's right.
That's what
Yeah,
started
that's right.
it.
And
No,
you
I
said
said
like
you.
I looked
I said,
at.
do you know who Jacobo Gringerg is? Of course. And I said, well, you look like him, except of course you're younger.
Yes.
We didn't even know if she would tell me I needed surgery. Someone asked me. They said, if she says you need surgery, would you do it? And I said, I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel about her. If I get a bad vibe, I'm not going to let her take a knife and cut me open. Okay, so that was a big point for me personally. Will I do it?
She could perform a lung surgery and pull out a lung and just manifest another lung from the air and just plug it into, it's like bending all that we think we know about reality, about stuff, like how is it bring, where.
I
Thank you for having me in your home here in Tepoztlan, Mexico. How long have we met each other? Like
just a few months.
2 months, perhaps?
Well, when did we met at when Linda was leaving?
To Oaxaca. So
in
yeah, it should be
in
like
the Central.
Yes, in the new Central. So we met here in Tepoztlan,
Yeah.
and you told me about something that really caught my attention.
Only because I thought you reminded me of Jacobo.
Oh, that's right.
That's what
yeah,
started
that's right.
it.
And
No,
you
I
said
said
like
you.
I looked
I said,
at.
do you know who Jacobo Gringerg is? Of course. And I said, well, you look like him, except of course you're younger.
Yes. All right. So
That's what
yes, this
started
is
it.
like the third time we've met or something,
Yeah.
but we've had really interesting talks. So I did want you or us to just share some stories about our journey. You're about to turn 80, right?
Next month.
Next month we're had a 8 decade party.
What?
8 decade. 8 decades.
Lots of decades.
80
Huh?
years of
I
rock and
can't
roll
believe
on
it.
planet Earth.
Yes, Simi el Planeta.
All right. So, in your 80 years, what would you say one of the most important things you've learned in your human experience? I know it's a tough one,
That's a tough one.
but
What in the 80 years? Well, people always ask me how I managed to be happy in spite of the fact that I went through a lot of things, a lot of challenges, including this one.
like the knee.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, it was a tragedy from the first surgery. And it was like, oh, God, so many people felt sorry for me because they thought, oh, she's going to finally have surgery and she'll be pain-free. And the opposite happened. Instead of coming home knowing that I was going to be better in a few months, I came home in a wheelchair.
Oh,
And ever since then, I had a lot of surgery, which is why I need the walker, is because many accidents that I had afterwards and surgeries, my leg would get shorter and shorter
yes.
until finally it's like the balance is off.
Okay.
That's the only reason I need this. I don't have any pain. If Pachita were here and I had surgery with her, I would have legs that are the same.
I really, yes. And that's one of the things I was cutting the attention that you were actually met Pachita.
Right.
I have read about her, about some books of Jacobo Gringerg, but it was
Right.
like for me amazing to meet someone that actually met her and went into
Right.
surgery with her.
Yeah.
Like impossible healing, would you say?
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
it's almost.
That's what I realized, that you probably have heard of her and never met anyone who actually was there and went through the surgery.
Yeah, so if you could share.
But I found out about her first here in Tepoztlan.
What year was it like?
When I first came to Tepoztlan, it was like 1972.
Okay.
She was already much older and partially blind, which is really, I'm laughing. See, I laugh a lot.
Yes.
Every time I wound up in the hospital, the first thing I would say to myself is like, how long is it going to take before I think this was funny?
Before you, okay.
Okay. I mean, there's a funny story behind every bad thing that happens. I mean, you can reach a point where you see it differently.
Yes. Perhaps in the moment you don't see it
Oh, no,
differently,
no,
and you
no.
see like
No, I had terrible accidents, and one of them, at least one of them for sure, if it happened any other time of the day, I'd be dead. I would have been dead. So I was fortunate that it wasn't at night when nobody would hear me asking for help. So, but it's a funny story. And I have friends and we laugh about it. It was the most horrible accident.
All right.
I fell into the bathtub. I was dressed. I wasn't taking a bath. I had friends coming for dinner and from Mexico. And I had two doors, like a door and a screen door. I used to open up the heavy door, so the screen door was locked. No one could come in, but I had more light in the house.
Okay.
And the screen prevented flies from coming
And mosquitoes, okay,
in.
yes.
And I think bugs, flies and mosquitoes and who knows what else. So the door was locked. The screen door was locked. And the table was set for dinner. They were coming, two friends were coming for dinner. I was so excited. And I went to the bathroom just to freshen up. And I realized, the screen door is locked. I'd better go and open it. And just at that moment they arrived, and I heard them yelling, "Simi!" And at that moment I turned and I fell into the tub.
All right.
But the wrong way. The tub is long. I fell the short way.
Okay.
And my legs were hanging over the tub.
Okay.
And I shouted back at them, "I'll be right there." How the hell did I think I was going to get out of the tub? I couldn't, and I kept trying and trying. And meanwhile, they kept calling my name. And a neighbor heard them and thought, they keep calling her name. There must be something wrong. So this neighbor who knew I had a problem walking, I already had a problem. I didn't need this all the time. I think I used a cane at that point. And he came out and he said to them, "Is there something wrong?" And they didn't speak English very well, but they managed. And they said to him, "Well, we heard her voice. We know she's in there, but she's not coming to the door." And he looked at them and he said, "I think you should call 911. I don't know if they knew what that was. 911 in Mexico, do they have 911?
We have it from the movies, I think.
From the movies.
Yeah. Like, call
So they didn't
911.
know, but he helped them. So meanwhile, I couldn't even, after the first time that I said, "I'll be right there," I started getting very weak. And I started realizing I can't get out of here. And I think I must have hit my head also, because when they called 911, by this time I kept trying to get out. And then when 911 came, I didn't know anything like that was happening, but the two emergency team that came in the house, they can unlock the door.
All right, yes.
Right? And they didn't even break it, which is amazing. And so they got, all of a sudden I heard a man's voice say, "Ma'am," because they didn't know what they were going to find.
Yes, like just approaching to the bathroom, I suppose.
I'm in the bathtub. And as soon as I heard, I knew that was help. Oh, help is here. And I let go, and I fainted. So when they took me out, I don't remember, I don't know how they got me out of the bathtub onto the stretcher, but they're very good at doing these things.
All right,
Because it's
that's
not the
cool.
first time that I had that happen. Not in the bathtub. That was unique. But the problem, not the problem, but the thing is that a friend of mine who was visiting a week before was making a joke. And he said, you know, Simi, if you want to meet somebody, get all dressed up and then get into the bathtub and call 911. And because they're all handsome. That's the
Okay,
thing.
okay.
In New York, oh my God, the emergency teams, the firemen, and there's another group. All women we always used to say, they're all handsome. They are all handsome. Oh, ambulance, that's it. The men that drive the ambulance.
Okay, so it was like a date plan, you know?
So that's why he was making this silly joke that wasn't that funny. But we kept laughing and laughing. And then the next week, I fall into the bathtub, all dressed. Somebody had to call the ambulance.
All right, so you did try it.
So what happened was when he heard about it, because he lives in Phoenix. No, he doesn't live in Phoenix, Arizona. And he lives south now, not in Phoenix. And when I told him what happened, when he heard what happened, all we could do was laugh. And laugh so hard it hurt.
All right, yeah, yeah.
And all we have to do now is call each other up and say bathtub. That's it.
To remember that funny story. That's amazing. So, yeah, I think that every story, tragic story in the present moment, it's like, but in some years we can hopefully turn around and laugh,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah. Eventually, everything is funny.
Yes, even existence itself.
No, but, I mean, that's why a lot of people would come. I mean, of course, so many of the things that happened, I would have gone to Pachita, which she was no longer alive.
Yes.
And I was in San Diego.
Okay, but the first time you met Pachita was in 1972 here in Tepoztlan.
No, I heard about her.
Okay.
Somebody just happened to tell me, you know, there's this woman in Mexico City who does this thing. I never heard of any of this before. And does this kind of surgery with a knife and no anesthesia, and she heals people. And I don't know why, but it didn't seem strange to me, or, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. No, it's just, I heard, they could tell me, oh, the sun is out today, or it rained last night, or there's this woman. It's all, I just listened, and that was it.
Okay.
But a few years later, I was having a problem, a physical problem, and going to all these doctors. I had this terrible pain on my right side, and every month it was getting worse and worse, and longer, more time, not just 2 or 3 days, but it kept starting earlier and ending later until I had pain almost the whole month. So I went to different doctors in New York, and none of them, whatever they did, they didn't know what was wrong until finally I went to one doctor, and he said we could do exploratory surgery. And I thought, I had already been learning a little bit more and more about the health movement and surgery and trying to avoid surgery or take healing measures other than the usual.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was this exploratory surgery about?
that struck me as ridiculous. I said, what? You're going, because it's still considered major surgery. If they open you up and they're going to look, and if they don't find anything, or what if they take out the wrong thing? I mean, I didn't trust it, but the point is that I had already learned that when you have major surgery, it really takes 2 years for the body to fully recover.
Okay.
So why should I have exploratory surgery that's the same as major surgery? And maybe they still don't know what's going on. And I had, by that point, started working at a public television station in New York. It's the one that developed Sesame Street.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
But it's a very well-respected television station. And I was so happy to have the job. And then I thought, oh, I have a paid vacation, and I'm going to go to Mexico and go find that woman that I heard about, so I don't have to have exploratory surgery.
Okay.
That was what, I had no more information than that. But I then found out, I don't know before or after, that sometimes Pachita would be arrested and in jail because she was practicing medicine and she wasn't a doctor.
Okay.
But other times, different president would let her do her thing and just look the other way. So I had to find out if she was in or out of jail. And where to find her in Mexico City. So there was a lot to consider, but then I told my former husband, and because we had lived in Tepoztlán together, and so he was very encouraging. Oh, yeah, go. And the next thing you know, I think I'll go too. And then he told two other people, and they said, I'm coming. So it was like going to the Wizard of Oz.
All right.
Yeah, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this.
Okay.
But I needed to something.
Okay.
I was,
So that's the last thing you knew about traditional medicine, that was you needed like exploratory surgery, and you decided to instead come to Mexico to meet Pachita.
and
That
find
you
her.
heard of her like 6 years ago or before that.
When did I have the surgery? She passed away in 1978, so it had to be before 1978.
All right, yeah.
But I don't remember how many years it was.
Let's say 1976 or so.
It could have been 1976, 1975, because it was closer to the time that she passed away.
Okay.
And when I went back to New York after I didn't tell anybody what I was really doing. I said, I'm going to go to Mexico on vacation. And I have family there, so, they thought, oh, that's nice, have a good time. I said that. And I told my mother and father that I was going, and I said, I'm going to a healer. That's the most I told them. But my mother, I know what they thought, that I was going to go to somebody, they were going to go like this, and maybe I would get better.
Okay.
I did not tell them what I was really going to go and do. And then when I got to Mexico, I stayed with my cousin, the one I'm closest with, and I told her what I wanted to do. And I said to her, if you're very uncomfortable about this, I'll go stay with somebody. I won't be upset. I know it's not easy to accept what I'm going to do. And especially my family in Mexico, whenever they had something serious, they would go to the United States. They would go to the Mayo Clinic, which is very famous for dealing with very serious illness. Okay? And I, from the United States, come to Mexico to go to the Pachita with the knife.
With the knife. No medicine degree, and you were coming.
Nothing. Cuauhtémoc.
Yes.
I didn't know any of that then. So, but I just was, I guess, like some people say, you would do something like that as a last resort. You're getting desperate, like I can't live with this pain, and I don't want exploratory surgery, so what do? Maybe that gave me the courage to try something else. But I did it, and I didn't know, we didn't even know if she would tell me I needed surgery. Someone asked me, they said, if she says you need surgery, would you do it? And I said, I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel about her. If I get a bad vibe, I'm not going to let her take a knife and cut me open. Okay, so that was a big point for me personally. Will I do it? If she says she can help me. She might say, you don't have any problem, it's psychological. I'll put a knife in your head. Well, actually, she did that with my mother. She saved my mother's life because my mother had some kind of pain in her head that she went through all kinds of tests and everything, and doctors said that what my mother had was inoperable.
Okay.
And then I never knew the name of what my mother had. It was just that doctors said they call it the Brooklyn Bridge disease because the pain is so bad and so unbearable that you want to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, geez.
So just after I came back from my experience and I told my parents what I did, I encouraged my mother to go. And she went.
And she came and she met Pachita and also she helped her.
Yeah, but Pachita had to put a knife in her head.
A knife?
Yeah.
Like open the skin or the skull?
My father was allowed, one person is allowed to come in. So with my mother, my father was allowed to come in. And I think he had to hold her feet. And my mother's getting a knife in her head. That's more fascinating than me, because they were.
No, but your story, it's like.
And it saved my mother's life. And my mother, at first, when she came back, she said, "Well, I still have some pain." And I said, "Mom, you just had the equivalent of major surgery. Give it time to heal. Take it easy." Okay. And within a year, she had no pain. We went to Disneyland, and she went on all the roller coasters.
All right.
So.
Okay, yeah, great. So what was your experience like? Like, how did you reach out Pachita? Where did you meet her? How was all the process?
Well, there's two things. One is that since we were a group of people, I wasn't, even my cousin said, "No, stay with me and I want to go with you. I want to be there." Everybody wanted to come and be there for me. But when I went to Pachita, the first thing is to go for, what do you call, like an analysis, like you go to a doctor to.
Well, was it like a hospital or
No.
Was it like a house or
It was it was a
guest
house in a very poor part of Mexico, in some barrio, I don't know where, or the name. Somebody else found out for us and told us where to go. And but it was a house, a typical house that it's built around a courtyard. The courtyard is inside, and then yet different rooms are around the courtyard.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's more like a neighborhood. I think in Mexico we call it vecindad.
Oh yeah,
Like
not
a-
barrio.
Like a vecindad, like
Vecindad, yes.
like inside a house, like it's like several people living, and there's like this main courtyard. And okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing was.
Were there a lot of people that line up for seeing her?
The line was all the way down the street and all the way around this corner, and I don't know there.
And how
Yes.
much did she charge?
She didn't charge anything. I think, I remember someone saying that that's the sign of a true healer.
The one that doesn't
They're
charge.
not
money.
charging anything. But you had to bring an egg the first time for your analysis, because I think she used it like an x-ray machine. So you see all these people. You see the poorest people, and then you see some very well-dressed European women, and all kinds. Everyone's online with an egg.
All right.
That alone, God forbid somebody broke the egg. Oh, don't drop the egg.
I buy you the one.
Later on, I was being taken care of by a Tibetan doctor, and one of the things that people had to bring was their first morning urine. And I, at one time, hosted the doctor in my house, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But I had people coming, and I was outside on the porch to take them in, and then they go in and see the Tibetan doctor, and then they come back out with the prescription and whatever.
From a pee analysis.
Huh?
From a pee analysis.
Yeah, and also pulse,
Okay.
taking the pulse. The Chinese do the same thing. It's very similar to Ayurvedic medicine.
Okay.
But they take the pulse, and there's a whole thing about how they can do what they get from the pulse is absolutely amazing. But I had all these people coming to my house with their jar of urine,
Of the first morning urine.
and somebody dropped hers, and we all, as if it were gold. Like, oh my God, you lost it.
No,
No,
your
what are you
first
gonna do?
urine.
So the same thing with the egg, but nobody dropped the egg as far as I know.
Okay, so you had the egg and you were lying, and were you nervous? Were you with your
Well, no,
husband?
because I wasn't nervous then. I was curious, but this was only the diagnosis. I didn't have to make any decision yet. But because we were a group of people, my ex-husband and another friend, two friends, and Rita, my cousin, the whole group of us, we were about 5 or 6 people online with our egg. So we took turns getting off the line
Okay.
to be able to sit down or walk around. So at what time I got off the line. So I don't know why, I just was walking around in the courtyard, and I was looking into one window, which was the living room, and looking into another room where they had a television, and it was like a house, living room, but I'm just looking into the house, and my back is to the people and to the entrance, and I found out that one of the rooms over there on the right was where Pachita did her surgery,
Okay.
and also where she did her analysis and diagnosis. This was the day that she was dedicated to diagnosing people. Then came the surgeries, and one day was dedicated to anyone who needed surgery from the head up, from here up. Then on Wednesday, I think it was this part of the body. Everyone who came on Wednesday had something in this part of the body, and then at the end of the week, it was the lower part of the body for surgery. So I'm just, but I wasn't nervous yet because it was just a diagnosis. Maybe she'd say, you don't have a problem, or I can't give you surgery, or, But so I was just looking into this house, taking a break from standing online, and this young man came over to me, and he said to me, you're going to see Pachita? And I said, yes. And he said, if she does surgery, if she wants to do surgery, would you do it? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, let me tell you that last year I was here and I couldn't walk. And I'm back because I brought my niece who needs some help. And I would never bring my niece if I didn't trust what this woman does. And he said, and he could walk. And I said, wow. And I guess I asked him, I said, does it hurt? If she does the surgery, does it hurt? And he said, yes, but it doesn't hurt. It's not worse than any other pain you have ever had. And it's so quick, it's less than a minute. So that was very helpful to me because after I saw her, she took the egg, asked me 3 questions that none of the doctors asked, and she threw the egg into this pail.
But you entered the room and it was bright. It was
No, it was pitch dark. First of all, you go in and you go behind a curtain, and then she's behind the curtain with her altar. And I just remember seeing the altar quickly, but I realized that Cuauhtémoc is on that altar, and so is the Virgin of Guadalupe, and God knows what else, and candles and incense. And I just saw it briefly because it was dark. But
like it was no artificial light, just candles, or it was pure dark?
They were candles. I'm pretty sure they
just
were
candles,
candles.
but it was
Yeah.
pretty much dark.
Yeah, oh yeah, and that's what made some people get mad at me when I came back. How could you let somebody do something like that? And I said, well, it was okay, but it was dark, because they asked me or I said something. I said it was just candles, and they said, how could you let her do that? I said it didn't matter. She's almost blind. She's almost blind.
And they were like, whoa, blind.
I was trying to make them feel better, and of course, that was the worst thing to say. Oh, but she was almost blind. It didn't matter.
Yes, I can imagine.
But anyway, because he said that to me, when she told me to come back, she said, "You have a tumor in the colon."
Okay, so do you remember what were the questions she asked you?
Oh, yeah.
What were they?
When it had something to do with the menstrual cycle. And so somehow or other, I remember her saying, "Where does it hurt?" I said, "Here." That was the first thing. The second thing she said is, "Does it get worse and then it gets better from the beginning of the month and to the end?" And I said, "Yes." And then she just said, "You have a tumor in the colon. Come back on such and such a day and I'll take it out." Very simple. But she never said,
Did she told you about
she-
some way to prepare yourself for the surgery?
well, everybody gets different instructions. But the thing also is that when she said that, she never said it was cancer. So I never asked, and I assume it wasn't. I think it was what would be called a blockage, some kind
Okay.
of blockage over here. But it wasn't necessarily cancerous. And I didn't even think about that. But meanwhile, then they give you a prescription. You can't go to any pharmacy, not even to the Dr. Simi.
Okay, okay.
So the thing is that you had to go and talk to one of the brothers, and they said, "Okay, Pachita wants you to come back tomorrow and bring 3 bottles of red wine. And she also likes the dress that you're wearing. So could you bring the dress? She'd like to borrow it and she says she thinks the dress is very nice for the people in her area, the poor people. She wanted to have a pattern made from that dress." This is what they told me.
Okay.
It's not what happened, I'm sure, because I never got the dress back. And I loved the dress.
Okay.
But the thing is that I had to bring the wine the next day and the dress. So luckily I had some pants to wear or whatever, and I brought her the dress and I brought the wine. And then they took the wine away and they brought it back to me. It was all uncorked. So they had opened up the wine and done something, and I never knew what. But when I looked in the wine, I saw little black cinders,
Okay.
and I have a feeling that was the dress. I have the feeling that she burned up the dress, that she didn't want to tell me. And I've thought about it. I mean, now I'm okay. I mean, I used to tell people, "Please go, if you go to Mexico, if you go to Pachita, ask for my dress." I really was attached to the dress, which is silly, but it was. It was such a nice little dress for traveling. It was perfect. So it winds up in the wine, I think. But I know that the person who gave me the dress was part of a group of people that Pachita would not allow them to come into her courtyard.
Okay.
And one of them was a doctor, former medical doctor and researcher, and he was very well known at the time. And he had been he got more into paranormal types of healing, even though he was a true medical doctor originally. And he had discovered a similar kind of surgeon in Brazil. His name was Arrigo. And then Arrigo died in a car accident, and I wonder about that, because this could be a threat to the government.
To pharmaceuticals or...
Exactly. And so then he found someone else. If you ever heard of Uri Geller?
No.
When Arrigo died, he went in search of another healer. And so ultimately he heard about someone in Israel whose name was Uri Geller. So then he studied him and brought him back to California to be studied. And then he heard about Pachita. So he wanted to study Pachita. But when he went, before I went, by that time I was no longer involved with these people. But I heard that they showed up at Pachita's. He wanted to do what Jacobo did. He wanted to witness the surgery, maybe film it, and Pachita kicked him out. get out of here. She would not let them even see anything.
So why do you think that she let Jacobo in to witness? You told me that he spent like 2 years with her, right?
Yeah.
In her, like witnessing
Yeah.
her surgeries.
Well, he it's the vibe, I guess. She must. It must have been her reaction had a. There's a basis for it.
Because I think I've read a couple of books of Jacobo Gringerg, and I have this idea of him that he really pursued healing, wisdom. Like he wasn't not after the money, like
Oh,
trying
no.
to make a business. But he was like a really awesome scientist. I think he wrote more than 50 books. I just read a couple of them, but I think that you can tell, right, if you are there to steal something or to
Yes.
to take something out, or
Mhm.
just for research and for
Exactly.
sharing, this and bringing this light to the world. Because I haven't read the book of Pachita by Jacobo Gringerg, but I know he wrote a book,
And I
a
know
whole
I
book
yeah I have
on her.
have it. I can't find it, but maybe maybe it's been disappeared.
No, it would be great. Like if we could read it and then we can
Yeah, no, I'll find
make
it.
a second episode and discuss the book.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah,
great.
yeah. I hope I find it. I mean, I know I have it.
I actually remember that here in Tepoztlan, like, I don't know, 2 years ago could be, they made the film projection about his documentary, The Secret of Jacobo, The Secret of Gringerg, El Secreto de Gringerg. And it was this amazing documentary about his research. It doesn't talk much about his research, but it was great because I was at the projection of the film with her daughter, Jacobo's daughter,
Wow.
with one of her ex-partners, ex-wives of Jacobo, and the niece, and it was the family, and it was like this Q&A kind of questions, and it was great, to meet Jacobo, because I think he was really into some kind of discovery about the latis, this soup that we don't see that we can use like to healing or to communicate or to healing like Pachita. All right, so you brought
What?
3 bottles of wine and you got them
Oh, yeah.
with, you think that parts of your dress,
Well,
that
I
it was
don't- I
burned
didn't-
up by this man, that it was like the enemy.
I didn't know it was the dress, and it may not be. But when I looked in the bottle, I saw from the fire cinders,
Okay, I can like ceniza, like
and then
ashes.
but I still was expecting to get my dress back.
Okay.
So I didn't think it was my dress in the beginning, but over time, when I couldn't get it, and then I had other people trying to get my dress, I started thinking, wait a moment, this dress came from those people that she kicked out, and she probably could sense something negative from the dress. And that's maybe why she burned it. I really believe she burned it.
So, how long before did you get the dress?
Probably within the year before, year or two.
And how long did you started with the pain?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because it could be related, because there are
Ooh.
some kind of items
Oh,
that are charged with
ooh.
energy that perhaps.
Thank you.
You
That's
know?
interesting because I think I had the dress first.
Before the pain. All right.
Yes,
That's
it had to be
interesting.
because I was still living in this big house with these people when I got the dress. And then I got paranoid about these people, so I left.
Okay.
And when I left, then I had to start my life all over, which I've had to do many times. But I made it to New York and eventually found a place to live, an apartment on my favorite street in New York,
Okay.
which was just magical. And I still had that dress, but I was dissociated from those people.
All right.
But I had the dress. And yes, it's after that then the pain started.
Yes, because like I'm just throwing ideas that perhaps if the dress had this negative energy,
No,
like
I never. You always say something that makes me think,
like,
"Oh my God!"
no. But really, like for example, in some vaccines or some cures for something, you use the proper venom in the the thing
Yes,
that
yes.
gets into you to make the cure. So perhaps if that was tied to the pain and it was like the antidote with that energy and just a little bit in the wine, could be,
It could be. And there's something else that I recognized from the wine. It smelled like iodine.
Iodine.
And iodine, like if you have a wound, you
You
would put
that
iodine to disinfect it or keep it from getting infected. So I think my dress was in there. I think there was some iodine in there.
Okay.
But all I know is the instructions that I had were very simple, that I should, the next morning, when I first got up, drink 1 cup of the red wine. And every day, drink 1 cup until I finish it, even before and then continue after the surgery.
Okay, so there was great instructions. Have a glass of wine every day, no worries.
Well, oh, it was wonderful. No, I don't know, and I would just be. It lasted the whole day.
All right, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, the hardest part was, is there? You want the
No, I'm good. I'm good.
okay. What we just.
About the instructions, you took a
Oh, yeah,
glass
yeah,
of
yeah.
wine, and how many days did you had the appointment? Yeah, it was.
In just a few days, I
So
had.
when was the time that you know that you were going to get surgery and you said yes? I mean,
Well, when she said come back,
the wine.
come back. No. She first, after she diagnosed it, she said you have a block. She didn't say blockage. She's speaking Spanish. Tienes un tumor en el colon. You have a tumor in the colon.
Okay.
Come back next whatever, and I'll take it out. So she didn't say, do you want to do it or will you do it? No, she just told me, come back.
All right,
And
but
and
you felt this vibe that she
I
could
felt
help you.
fine. Her 3 questions or 2 questions
Besides,
were right
she
on.
was almost blind in a dark place without any
didn't matter.
medical license.
No, it's
or
funny. I can't believe that didn't upset me at all.
Okay.
And especially that young man that came over to give me courage.
All right. Yeah. That was an important.
Yeah,
man in
because
the
what I
scene.
did was I had 3 days before I was going to go for the surgery.
Okay.
And I had to drink the wine, just 1 cup in the morning, but then I was fine the rest of the day. But I was in a lot of pain. And the thing is that I decided not to take anything to relieve the pain, even Tylenol or whatever,
Okay.
because I wanted to know how bad it was. And what I did was I tried to remember every single time I had pain. And if I had pain once for 3 weeks from a terrible miscarriage. You know, when you hear about women having a difficult time giving birth,
Yes.
imagine having contractions, really hard contractions for 3 weeks. That's a lot of pain.
All
I
right.
was in and out of the hospital. My poor husband had to drive me in and drive me out. He would start crying. He said, I can't stand to see you in so much pain. I mean, it was like horrible. If I could stand that for 3 weeks and this guy says, it only lasts less than a minute,
Yes.
could I make it? That's how I spent 3 days, reliving every single kind of pain I ever had. I'm sure other people don't do that.
All right.
Well, nobody else had to get the wine, but I had to finish the wine, and I was leaving after the surgery in a few days to go back to the States and go back to my job. And I still had the wine, so I took the wine with me, and I was terrified. What if they don't let me go through customs with the wine? And I thought,
So, do you think that the wine was kind of the preparation and the post-surgery
Yes.
healing?
yes, part of the
Antidote.
healing, definitely. And I think the iodine, if that was, it smelled just like iodine. I mean, it didn't taste like the best wine you've ever had.
Okay, yes. I
But
can imagine.
it was okay, and the black things were floating in the wine, which I later thought was the dress, because I never got it back. And I think they just told me that because they didn't want. She also did some special things. I mean,
More special.
well, like burning the dress to get rid of some negative influence on me.
I think it was, yeah, it could be related.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so then you took the wine, and then she told you come in 3 days
Yeah.
for surgery.
Right.
And you didn't have the time to say, I want to do it or not.
No,
You just went like,
it was-
okay, I will come in 3 days.
Yeah, it was
No
not even a
worries."
question. It's funny to go
Cool.
from people saying,
So could you
"Will you do it?"
could you see her face, like, or was it like blurry or too dark to see really
No,
her
no.
face?
Yeah, no, I saw her face.
Because I remember I told you about the documentary projection, because I remember in the documentary Pachita appears in our kind of White House, in the president's house. You know, it was one president, and she's been filming that she was with the president of Mexico at the time.
Oh, really?
You know, and it sounds like she could be, you know, like an ally or an enemy. It depends on the president, because you
Exactly.
would want to have that kind of miraculous healing around you if you're the president of any country, you know.
Yeah.
I would think, but it's like, all right, so you were on board. You
I,
were-
I was mostly focused on the pain, and that's why I kept thinking, okay, it's only going to last less than a minute. I made it for 3 weeks in the most horrific. Doctors came to me and said, when I was having that miscarriage, they would say, "We're sorry, we can't kill the pain." They couldn't even give me something to make me more comfortable. It was
Okay.
a horrible, horrible, extended period of pain. So I said, if I could live through that, can I live through
1
knife?
minute.
You know, and it's less than a minute. I mean, thank God that guy told me that. He told me it's less than a minute. It's no worse than any pain you've ever had. And I thought of other things that I had. The miscarriage was probably the worst.
All right.
So, but when the day came, one of the other people that came with me was also having surgery that day. And we got there, and now it's different. There's no line. We come when our appointment is, and we're there, and we're sitting inside the house, in the part of the house that was like a little living room, a waiting room, let's say.
All right. Yeah.
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 Waiting room. And my friend, her name is Mimi. It was funny because it was Mimi and Simi. Simi and Mimi, you know.
See
But-
me and maybe go to Pachita.
Yeah, go to Pachita. So she was practically throwing up. She was really nervous beforehand and throwing up. I was like just stone. I felt like I was going to my death.
Okay.
And I remember, I've always been not a good thing, but I always used to wonder, what did it feel like when you're going to die on the electric chair?
Okay.
Because I used to hear about people that were electrocuted. You know, in prison, they would sometimes, if someone committed a major crime, they might be
That's a
sent.
hardcore way to kill someone, right?
What?
It's a hardcore way to kill someone.
Oh,
It's-
God.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, let's, oh, yeah, yeah.
And knowing that you're going to go for, I used to think about that for some reason. What would it be like to know you're going to die, that something's going to happen, that's it, you're not coming back. And so that's how I felt, that I was going to, I felt the way someone would feel facing death. Don't
Okay.
ask me why. That was the way. So I was like very serious. My girlfriend's throwing up. I think it was better what she was doing. She was allowing herself to feel the nervousness,
Yes.
and I was trying to convince myself that I could make it through this
Okay.
with the wine. But I also had to take the wine home with me on the plane and then go through customs with my
Yes.
wine. And I thought, if they don't let me go through customs with the wine and they confiscate the wine, I will stay with the wine until I finish.
Yes, of
I will
course.
not let them take the wine, and if they do, they have to take me with it. And I would tell them why, and but I didn't have to do any of that. When I went through customs, they see the wine and the bottle's open. That's even worse. And I said, oh, and I don't know, this is just what came out of my mouth. I said, oh, I had to, friends of mine gave me a farewell party, and this was left over, and they wanted me to have it. And I said, okay. And that would never happen today.
No, it would be impossible.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And even my mother, she was given some kind of tea, some kind of unusual tea to make it when she went back home to Florida. And she had to go through customs. And they said, well, what is this? I mean, maybe they thought it was marijuana. I don't know, with my mother. Mm-hmm. But she said to them, oh, I got it in Mexico. It's from a spa. It's for a facial. So we both did something to get through customs. Yeah, and so I kept drinking the wine at home. When I got home, I still had, though, the definite sensation of surgery.
All right, but you have to tell us about the surgery.
Yeah, well.
So you were in the waiting room, and then you were.
And then it was
called.
my turn. Oh God. I'm reliving it at this moment. It was like, oh my God, I'm really, And I had asked Jacobo. I said, you're going to be there, right? I said, okay, can I hold your
So you met Jacobo before, like in the diagnostic day?
Yeah, on the diagnosis day, because when I got off the line to take a break, my friend Rita, who lives here, she's the one that we were sitting and talking, just relaxing. We're not on the line, we're sitting. And she said, I have this friend, Jacobo, that used to come every weekend to Tepoztlan, and he hasn't been in Tepoztlan for months, and I have no idea what happened to him. And then right at that moment, he walks in front of us. She goes, Jacobo!
Inside Pachita's house?
Yes, he was already working with her.
Okay.
So I was introduced to him, and because of Rita and Jacobo, whatever, I said to him, he said, if you have he didn't say that then, I don't know when he said it, but he said that if I had the surgery, when it turns out that I did have to have the surgery, he offered that he would take me and this other woman, Mimi, to his house for the 3 days. Everyone who has surgery with her, no matter what your instructions were, but within 3 days you supposedly get up and go on with your life.
Okay, so it's like a 3 day of resting and recovery, and you are set to go on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you met Jacobo, and then.
And then after she told me come back, and that because Jacobo wanted to know what she said, then I said, will you be there? And he said yes. And I said, would I be able to hold your hand or something? And he said yes. And then he said, and I'll take you and Mimi back to my house for the 3 days of healing.
All right.
Okay. And so that was comforting, except for the surgery part. I still had to go through that. But I knew that he was going to be there for some reason. That gave me, I don't know, some kind of confidence. And that's maybe why, I don't know, I was just very accepting of everything. The room was dark. She was old and partially blind. I don't know why, I just, I was glad Jacobo was there anyway.
All right, so
also,
you came in with Jacobo, Pachita, and your husband, or
yeah, he was allowed in the room.
Your husband.
Yeah.
All right, so
yeah.
You were only you four. Or did Pachita have an
Oh no,
assistant?
there were a lot of. I just remember, her sons, or the hermanos, whatever they're called. There were several of them. So you have to bring it on the day of the surgery. You bring a sheet and your own bandage, gauze.
Okay.
Okay, so she didn't charge anything as you asked, but you had to bring an egg for the diagnosis, and for the surgery you had to bring your own sheet and your own bandage, the gauze.
Okay.
Okay, So when I went in the room, the first thing is they quickly lay down. They do very quick work because she does a whole series of surgeries, one after another, and you go, how does she do it? You know, but you get in and they quickly, they take the sheet, they put it over the table. They tell you to lay down because it's going to be over here, and then Jacobo shows up and I grab his arm, and she puts the knife over here. The pain was over here.
Okay.
And my first thought was, oh God, how am I going to tell her? I mean, this is a long thought, but it was really a second. It was like, how do I tell her? She said, no, it's not over there. The pain is here. But I didn't have time. The whole thing was so fast. And so the knife started here, but then it started moving across my stomach. And as it moved across my stomach, it started going in deeper and deeper. And then suddenly it got here, and that's when I freaked out because the pain was so intense. And that's when I went out of my body, and I thought that I was back in New York,
Okay.
dreaming that this happened, that I was doing this. And then she brought me back into my body, but she just very gently, "Ya niña, yes, my dear, it's okay now, you're okay. Yes, 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 yes," and I'm coming back in my body, and then I start to freak out. I really did it.
But when you came back, you also had pain, or it was.
Yeah, some people have no pain, some people have pain for a while, but it just goes away,
But when you came back, it was over the surgery.
It was over. It was over.
Okay.
Yeah, so then the next thing I know, they're wrapping me up, they're putting the gauze around me, and they quickly take the sheet that's hanging down over the table, and they pull it over you. They wrap you up in your sheet, and they gather around so when they lift you, they don't do any damage to the surgery
All right. Yeah.
area.
Very careful.
So when they pick you up, it was all so fast. And then they pick me up, and then they go through the curtain, and it turns out the other part of that room was the recovery room.
Okay.
So, but I see these people wrapped up in sheets, and then they lay me next to them, and then in 10 minutes or less, the next one comes out and lays them next to me, and we're like sardines on the floor.
On the floor.
On the floor.
Okay, so what about the knife? Was it like a?
Well,
How-
I asked my husband because he saw it. I kept
He was
picturing.
witnessing
He
the
witnessed the
surgery,
whole thing.
and he didn't freak out like, "Where's the anesthesia? Where is the bleeding?"
No, well,
up?"
we all
or-
knew that there wasn't going to be any anesthesia.
Could be a little bit of the wine, right? But
I think it was more for disinfectant.
okay,
I think, and relaxing was relaxing.
yeah, it's relaxing.
But I was terrified anyway.
Okay,
Oh,
so did your husband saw the knife?
yeah, because I remember later when we came back to New York, and one day we were talking, I said, well, what kind of a knife was it? I thought it was like a little knife, you just carve out this little thing here. He said, no, it was a big bread knife, a big knife. And it was the only knife, that's used over and over and over, and they don't clean it, they don't do anything. And I remember one time looking her up, with later on in life, with computers and iPhones and stuff. And I remember Googling something about her, and I came across something that talked about how she could manipulate molecules and things so that there's no infection.
All right.
And I wish I could find that article. Now I can look for it.
I think it should be a little more specific in the book. That's my guess. About
I
Jacobo.
had never read that one thing that she manipulated
Okay.
molecules.
Because one of the other things, I don't know if I read it or I heard from someone, it's that she could perform a lung surgery and pull out a lung and just manifest another lung from the air and just plug it into, it's like bending all that we think we know about reality, about stuff, like how
That's
is
true,
brain
yeah.
where, because at some point it could be like the myths about, for example, Jesus like spreading the bread and the fish, and it's, you know, if you are connected to the pure potentiality before matter, like where everything comes from, and you have the ability, and I can show you, okay, I'm gonna split the cup in two, you know, and I go, whoa, what? How are you doing it? But you know, like this cup, perhaps comes for pure potential, you know, from emptiness, and then there is matter, and if you can get in the line before the matter and the full potentiality could do miracles, actually. Okay, so you were left in the waiting room like a
Yeah,
sardina with
like
many
sardines.
other.
And 5 minutes after they lay me down, they bring out the next woman, and she was the woman that they lay next to me. And so now I'm lying there in the dark with the sheet thinking, well, it's over. But I'm in shock, mentally at first, because I'm afraid maybe she messed up something in my body and it's going to be worse.
Yes.
You know, I mean, someone sticking a knife in you and going across like this. You know, I was upset that I did it afterwards,
Okay.
temporarily. Meanwhile, this little old lady says to me, "¿Qué tenías tú?" So sweet. What did you have? And I said, "Oh, I had a tumor in the colon." "Oh, me too."
All right.
And then 2 minutes later, she says to some of the helpers, the brothers or whatever, she says, "Okay, I can go." And she jumps up like there's nothing and walks out. And I'm still lying there and I can't get up. So now I'm trying to do what she did. I should go. I can't lie here forever. So I was just, no, I didn't think that. I just kept thinking, I have to get up. And I didn't feel like I could. And finally, I felt like I could. I felt calm enough. So I said, "I think I can get up now." So they said, "Okay." And they help you get up, again, so you don't put any pressure
Okay.
on your stomach or on your whatever area you have had surgery. So they help me up, and I take like 2 steps, and the most intense heat starts to come out of every pore of my body. So much heat. And I think I also actually got like wet, sweating from the heat.
Okay.
But I think the sheet got wet
From the sweat.
from the stress and the sweat, from the heat. The heat was intense. And I said to them, "I'm going to faint." Luckily, I knew how to say that in Spanish. They immediately shoved a chair under me.
Okay.
I mean, this woman, the older woman, she was older and I wasn't that old then.
Okay.
Less decades. And I was embarrassed that I couldn't get up and walk out like her.
Okay.
You know, and then here I had to say, "I think I'm going to faint." And they stuck a chair under me right in front of the door. Well, that's where I was. They just stuck the chair under me so I wouldn't faint and fall on the floor. But when I sat down, the heat was coming out of my body all through every pore. It was so intense. And meanwhile, because I was close to the door where people would come in and then go behind the curtain for their surgery, and I would hear things like, when I would go, "Oh, no." Every time I heard something happening, I go, "Oh, no."
Oh no.
And so now I still couldn't get up. And meanwhile, everyone's coming in and they go out like it's nothing. And there I am, and my poor cousin, Rosita from Mexico, who came and was very supportive, she's getting hysterical. She's crying. "How come Simi's not coming out?" And that's just like, that's what was happening. When I came out, she almost started crying. And
And you came out walking or in the chair or what?
yeah, no, I had to get up with the sheet and up over part of my head to keep me from getting a chill.
Okay.
And when I finally walked out, she just started crying from relief. Oh, she's alive.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go into the waiting room, back to the waiting room, where one of the brothers comes out and gives you instructions for the next 3 days of healing. And I was so relieved that it was over, and I was still alive, that from nervousness, I started laughing. And I
Okay.
said to my cousin, "Oh, let's go dancing now that it's over." And it was not so funny, but I thought it was hysterical, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Okay.
And I'm holding my stomach, and I can't stop laughing. And I know I don't want to laugh because I don't want to ruin the surgery. So my cousin said to me, "Okay, I'll tell you something that's going to make you stop laughing." I said, "What? Tell me." And she said, "Well, one of the instructions is when you go back to New York, you can't have sex for 40 days. And all of a sudden I went, huh?
That was part of the instructions, no sex for
No,
40 days.
I mean, I had a boyfriend at home who did not know what I was doing. All I told him was I got sick and I was staying an extra week in Mexico.
Okay.
He didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
But he was waiting for me to come back. And I said, well, this is going to be a real test on the relationship. How am I going to tell him? 40 days.
40 days, that's a long time where you're...
Well, when you're younger.
Yes.
It seemed like, oh no, I mean, really. I stopped laughing. And how am I going to tell him that? And now I'm worried about that, but I'm going to do whatever has to be done. Now, something else happened that I never understood. But one time, when I was in New York, this was before the 40 days were over, because we marked the calendar and everything.
Okay.
And I remember I got a phone call one day. I got up to answer the phone, and it was a voice saying, "Pachita wants to make sure that you're following the instructions." And I thought, wait a minute, how could she call? They didn't have my phone number, and why would Pachita call me to make sure I'm adhering to her instructions, especially the 40 days? So I don't know where that phone call came from.
Was this like a male voice or
No,
a
I think it
female?
was a female voice.
Oh,
At the moment, it seemed perfectly normal that she was calling me to say, "I'm hoping you're okay." But then afterwards, I thought, wait a minute, no, how could that happen?
All right.
I have no idea, but it did. It was just to check on me. So whatever it was,
Cool.
whoever it was probably just making sure that I did everything in order to heal. I mean, when I first got home, I realized that I needed another week. I could tell for healing, I should not go back to work the next morning. So I called work and I told them I needed another week. When I told them, I called work and said, I got sick in Mexico, I have to stay an extra week. And when I came back, instead of returning to work the next day, I said, I'm still not okay, I need another week.
All right.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
kept drinking my wine.
All right. That's awesome. So what about, did you, when you finished the surgery, did you went back to Jacobo's place
Yes,
for the 3-day recovery?
yes, with Mimi.
All right. Mimi
Yeah.
and Simi.
Yes. And he gave up his bedroom, and it was a big enough bed, so she had an operation on her back, and I had one on my stomach. So I had to lie on my back, and she had to lie on her stomach, so we
Okay.
could talk to each other.
All right.
But she was, her situation was not urgent. She wasn't in that much pain. She just went to Pachita because she knew she had a problem and maybe Pachita could help her.
All right.
So she recovered very quickly. She was walking around the house and I'm lying there like. And then I think I told you this about Jacobo came in, because he left every day to go work with her or study or assist, study what was happening or make notes. And then apparently there was one or 2 days that there was no surgery, or maybe after the surgery, I don't know. All of them, the brothers and Pachita and Jacobo, would all get together and do like a debriefing about, I don't know what. They just talked about whatever they needed to
Like,
talk about.
weekly meetings.
Hmm?
Weekly meetings. Like, okay.
Yeah. And so Jacobo came in. Mimi was doing very well, and I'm not. And I said, Jacobo, I don't know how I'm going to get up in 2 more days and go back to Rosita's house, and then the next day get on a plane and go to New York. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I said, something hurts. I mean, it felt like surgery. It really did.
Okay.
I mean, I've had surgery once or twice, I guess, so I knew what it felt like. But I was concerned, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. And he said, well, tonight when we have our meeting, I'll talk to Pachita. I said, okay, thank you. You know, and that's one of the best parts, of course, is that when he came back that night, he came back with a mayonnaise jar with this liquid in it, this beautiful, beautiful pink liquid, like rose quartz.
Okay, okay, so pink, all right?
Yeah, pink, clear pink liquid, beautiful. And he said, I spoke to Pachita, and she sent this to you, and she wants you to drink half of it now before you sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, drink the other half. I said, okay. And I thought the way the pink liquid looked, that it would have this beautiful nectar flavor, because it didn't have any flavor.
Okay.
It was odorless, tasteless, but, oh, and then he said to me, and Pachita said, drink this, half and half, and then, not for coffee, and then she's going to visit you. And I looked at him, I said, no, look, she's old, she's almost blind, she's poor, and she's going to get on a bus. My image would be she'd have to get on a bus, because where Jacobo lived was at another end of Mexico.
All right.
It wasn't where she was. So the point is, I thought, no, how is she going to come and visit me now after all the things, she does all that surgeries? No, she shouldn't come. He said, no, she's not going to visit you like that. That's all he said.
Whoa.
And all I thought was, well, I was just relieved that she wasn't getting on a bus and late at night traveling to come and visit me. So I just said, oh, okay. And I had no idea what he meant. No idea. But
So you drank the first half that night?
I drank the first half. So then he said good night, and I drank the first half, and I fell asleep. And I had to either lie on my back, or the most I could do was just turn a little bit on my side. And I was a little bit on my side and sleeping, and Mimi was fast asleep, and something wakes me up. I mean, I don't know, all of a sudden I just start to wake up. And that's when I'm trying to open my eyes, and why am I awake? And all of a sudden I realize that in the room is this beautiful, beautiful white horse. And on the horse is this handsome Indian with big headdress of feathers.
Okay.
On the horse. And the horse was really trying to leave, was pulling on the reins, and the Indian on the horse was holding it back and looking at me. And finally, as I started to come into conscious awareness, I realized this is what I'm looking at. It didn't even strike me what was a horse doing in the room
Yes.
with an Indian. But the thing was that when I realized what I was looking at, is suddenly our eyes met. And I realized that I was really seeing this vision. And he realized that I consciously saw it. And the moment our eyes met, then he went and let the horse go and was out of the room. And it never even occurred to me at that point, that's how she visited me.
All right.
And it took me a while to figure that one, or to think about it, what it was. And I realized I don't even think I mentioned it to Jacobo.
The dream.
The
vision.
The vision. But what happened was, as brief as it was, I had the experience like people who have near-death experiences, that they say that they, left their body and they could have died, but they saw Christ or whatever, and they felt this incredible love. I had the same kind of experience with this vision. it was just, I felt pure love in the room, coming at me, leaving, going towards that vision. Just everything was unconditional love, which I never felt before like that. And there was a very powerful moment. And I still think about it because every now and then a white horse appears. Someone sends me a birthday card and it's got a white horse on it. And one time that years later, I would think about that vision and go, that couldn't have been real. What was that? It was an Indian on a white horse. And at that moment, a car would pull in front of me with a tire on the back of the car, or vehicle, big vehicles for camping. And people very often have their tire on the back.
With some kind of art or decorated.
Yes, with a cover over the tire and some kind of art. And so this vehicle, at that moment when I'm doubting, was that real, comes right in front of me, and painted on it is an Indian with a headdress and on the white horse. I just here, I have a picture. There were these chinelos. There was a festival a few weeks ago here. And it had to do with the Virgin of Guadalupe. And they're taking it around before they return her to the church that was messed up from a big earthquake. And so this was a big deal in every barrio. And but it was happening here. And so I went with the owners from the house, and we went to the church that night just to go, and I wanted to see what was happening and participate with them. And when we were coming out of the church, there were all these chinelos dancing. And one chinelo came over to help me come down a step. So I thought, wow, how nice, thank you, well, in Spanish. But they all have these things on their back that I never noticed before. And on these things are different paintings. And there's one that I kept thinking, I think I'm seeing a white horse and an Indian. And finally, the chinelo happened to be near enough to me, with his back to me, and I took a picture of it, and I have it.
All right, so
So I'll have to show it to you.
Yes. So this guy, do you think who was this person, this Indian?
No, it didn't occur to me. I started thinking later on when I read about Pachita from Jacobo's book.
Okay.
And in one of the books, maybe I have two books, I'm not sure, but it says that it explains that it was not Pachita. Pachita was channeling Cuauhtémoc.
Cuauhtémoc.
Yes, I think it's interesting that I wind up on Calle Cuauhtémoc.
This Calle is Cuauhtémoc,
This is Calle
Cuauhtémoc, right?
It's wonderful. I mean, I used to go to Tijuana from San Diego, and they have one big avenue with different statues, big, something, different presidents, and even Abraham Lincoln is one of them. And then there's one that's Cuauhtémoc, the big knife. And I go, oh, that's my doctor. I used to do that with my friends. I said, that's my doctor, and there's his knife.
That's amazing, because that could be, right? Like a woman like Pachita was channelizing a spirit, like a wise spirit of medicine from our ancestors, and could be, delivering, just making the portal for the healing or cure from a different energy or soul or spirit of Cuauhtémoc.
It was from Cuauhtémoc, but all I know is that one of the things that impressed me was that the reason that this was happening, that Cuauhtémoc was doing this, was because he felt, he was the last Aztec king, and he also apparently was a medical doctor, and he felt he didn't fulfill his mission. This is what I read. Felt that he hadn't fulfilled his mission to help people. So he came back, and somehow or other maybe she was perfect for being a channel. I don't know how it all started, but she It describes in the book that she would go into some kind of meditation before the surgeries would start. And maybe what she was really doing was getting ready to let the channeling come through, which is why it didn't matter if she was almost blind in a dark room.
With no cleaning.
No, nothing.
You know? Yeah, and that was interesting. Other thing so what about the scar? Did it leave you a scar in your belly?
Oh, I could see it because, the day that after I drank the liquid, I noticed that I had less pain. And when I went to the bathroom to look, the bandage had come undone and had moved away from the wound.
Okay.
So I could see the scar. But like the next day, it was like erasing. It was disappearing very quickly. Because by the time I went back to New York, just a few days later, I was showing a few people who didn't believe me. I said, well, this is the scar. And I said, you better look now because it's going away. And it's gone, It was gone within 2 weeks it was gone.
Like no trace of the scar.
No.
And that's really interesting because when I first talked to you, I spoke to my dad and his girlfriend, and you told me that Pachita died, but Los Hermanos were her sons that keep on going with this healing movement. So my dad's girlfriend told me that she have had like this kind of surgery like 10 years ago, and she had something here or something, but she fell the knife and went to Los Hermanos. But then the instructions were that you don't take the bandage for 15 days.
Oh, different.
Yeah, and then after 15 days, she was like really careful because she didn't want to mess it up. She felt the knife and she went into the dark room with the altar and the healing, but it was the Los Hermanos, it wasn't Pachita anymore. But then 15 days later, she takes off the bandage and she doesn't see anything. So she was certain that it was an illusion. It was like a scam.
Oh, wow.
Like she thought, oh yeah, it was a scam, but she felt better. She had this thing in her esophagus or something.
Okay.
And she did really felt better, but she thought that she has been scammed, and I think that they charge a little bit. But when I told her that you had told me that the scar disappeared so fast, she was like, oh, it could have been truth, and it was like a truth surgery and a healing, but because I would have been like her, like accepting, if I don't have a witness like my husband or my partner or whatever, and just see nothing, I would like, they lied to me and they just,
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of those fake psychic surgeons.
Yes.
So I'm sure a lot of people would think, who knows? And if she didn't see any scar because she had a bandage on for 15 days, I could understand that she might think that she was scammed.
Yeah, or it was like a prank or something, or a scam, it could be.
But for me, it was very real. It was very real. I mean, from the moment the point of the knife hit, and I thought, oh, she's in the wrong place. It's over here. And then going out of my body, and then then going into shock. That's why I couldn't get up from the floor in the recovery room.
Yeah, it's like a really hard process for the body
for me it was.
Yeah, no, for anybody, if I don't know.
Like that little old lady, it was like nothing. I think she probably had been there before with her, with Pachita. But I have remembered something that I forgot about that also might have helped me even consider doing this, coming from the States and, regular medical stuff, is that when I was in Tepoztlan, a year before I came to Tepoztlan, I didn't know I was going to wind up here. I didn't know it existed a year before. But I had begun to record my dreams, and I continued doing that when I came to Tepoztlan. And my dreams started to get really more interesting, maybe from Tepoztlan, or maybe because I was paying attention and started studying my dreams. And I had one dream that I forgot about. But I think it was a dream that prepared me also for Pachita. And the dream was, and I think you would understand this, because I've never told it to anybody, because maybe I thought they wouldn't understand. I never thought to tell anybody. I don't know why. I never told Jacobo about the horse and the Indian in the room.
Okay.
It didn't occur. It seemed, I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't like, I can't tell them, they'll think I'm crazy. It wasn't anything like that. It was like just, I don't know, natural, wonderful, fabulous, but I didn't say anything to anybody. I don't think anyone really, I have a girlfriend that I did tell, finally. She used to love the story about the horse.
All right.
Like every year she was, tell me again, tell me the story again. But the dream that I had was 3 parts, me, 3 different me's. It was one part of me against a wall. Dreams aren't exactly the way it's going to be. It's symbolic in many ways. So in this dream, my back was against a wall, and somebody, I didn't see who, was sticking a knife in my stomach. And I was feeling pain. That was that part of the dream. There was a second me out of the body watching this happening, and when I was out of the body, I didn't have any pain. And then there was a third me that was watching that part of me feeling pain, and the other part of me that didn't feel pain. So if I put my consciousness into observing it, I didn't feel it. When I was in the body, I felt it. Does that make any sense?
Of course.
So I never understood the dream. It was like very interesting though. The 3 different me's, observing this, and then I realized after Pachita, oh, that dream, oh my God, I was really getting a knife in my stomach.
And you had this astral projection while the surgery went.
Right, yeah.
Yes, Leah. Yeah, like as I think I told you that like 1 year ago I launched a course with Nancy Trivelato.
With what?
With Nancy Trivelato, I launched a course about astral projection.
Oh.
I teach meditation and art, and she taught how to control your energy to be able to astral project freely and to research. But yeah, that's one of the main things that, like many things in this realm as pain or hunger, or you have to take this body to wash to the, to the bathroom, you have to take these body needs and pains and pleasures and everything, but it doesn't exist in the astral realm, because you don't have the physical body. You don't have the pains that you have in this dimension. In the other dimension, you don't feel. That's why many people that have these near-death experiences, like, go to that dimension where they don't feel any pain and they're like expanded, like way more bigger, and they don't want to come back to.
Of course, yeah.
Like they're like, oh no, fuck that!
No,
I don't want to come back to
pain.
that body. That body has pain. No, I am free here. But then many tell the story that they have to come. They are not finished. That they see some entities that are okay, so cool. You have experienced this. You are certain that life does not end with the physical death.
Oh, yes.
You are feeling your another essence, because they put it in that. Nancy Trivelato is the founder of the International Academy of Consciousness. They've been like 30 years in several parts of the world teaching that in 3 languages, I think. Yeah. But they see the body, like the physical body, as like a matrushka, like a Russian doll, that we have like the physical, we have the astral and the mental. And
the what?
Mental.
Oh, okay.
So when you get out of your body, you are connected by this kind of interface that the energy goes to the silver cord and you are astral projecting. But from this, you can also have another projection when it's not, like the astral you looks like you, but energetically, and you can change forms. But in the mental projection, it's like you don't have any body. You're like pure energy.
Wow.
And it's not like, you can talk to some other entities that don't have a body in the astral
Right.
realm,
Right.
and the communication is like you can have that book, like the Orange book, like in 1 second, like telepathically, like a bunch of information
That's
like goes.
interesting that you say that. That's interesting because, again, in Tepoztlan, I had a friend in New York who was studying some very interesting things all the time. Like, did you ever hear of Gurdjieff?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he would, and my husband at
fourth
the
way.
time wasn't that interested in what his friend Larry was studying, and Larry's wife wasn't interested that much. But I would ask Larry questions like, "What are you studying?" "Well, who's Gurdjieff?" And he would recommend things to me to practice or to read. And there was one book about Gurdjieff, and there was one book that was, I don't know if the book was called All and Everything, or if it's my imagination, but there was some book that Larry was recommending that was very, very intense, probably like a Urantia type.
Okay.
Okay, something very intense, and I don't think I read it, or maybe I had it or saw it. But I never read it. But I remember that the first time that I tried LSD was in Tepoztlan with two very wonderful guides. And at one point I remember saying, "I have to go lie down, I'm going to die." But I wasn't afraid, I just felt I had to lie down so I could die. And we had this, in Tepoztlan, a beautiful, beautiful tree in our garden. And we had put up a hammock. So I went outside and I lay down in the hammock, and two of the guides came out to look at me to make sure I was okay. I said, "I'm fine." And now I realize it, not that I died, it's just I left my body for a while.
Okay.
Ooh, what happened?
It was like a
A
big
thing.
fly.
A
Yeah.
big thing.
Yes, it was a big thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a bird, though.
No, it was like a, I don't know, like a super
Yeah, but
bee.
it went away.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, stay away.
Okay, so you felt that you went out of your body in that LSD experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, wait, I was going to say something else. What was I just?
You said that you were preparing to die on the LSD. And
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hammock.
Oh, yeah. So they saw that I was safe in the hammock, and I don't think they were there, but I must have then just, I don't know where I went. All I know is that when I came back into my body, I heard myself saying, "And that's all and everything." I knew the whole book.
Okay, that's all.
But I don't know, I don't remember. I mean, wherever I went and whatever I experienced, I understood everything that's in that book. Now, I wish I could do the same thing now with Orange
You
book.
could, if you set your intention, you could, because there's also this kind of, because the International Academy of Consciousness, research every paranormal activity, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, like when you can channel something through writing or through remote vision or by location, like every phenomenon, they are researchers, and they are so humble that, okay, so this is why we have research, but we need more researchers because this is way too much wide to really connect with science, with our brain, like human brains, and there are like a lot of things that it's not from the ordinary senses,
Yeah.
and it's like a huge realm that it's difficult. They explain that when you are expanded in another realm, it's hard for you to all that information, like to go into your human mind and remember everything. It's really hard,
Yeah.
because it's like a limit of your human mind and your
Exactly, yes.
consciousness,
yes,
like your
yeah.
way up consciousness, that it's hard, but they have techniques to try to develop that area. Okay, Simi, so I think it's great. I really, really love to hear your story. I know that many people like me, like psychonauts, researchers would like to hear your story and like testimony, like a real testimony of Pachita,
Uh-huh.
right?
Well, I hope it helps somebody,
Yes.
or many.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like I don't know. I say like impossible healing. Like we many are raised like in a scientific, logical way of seeing reality, but when you encounter these kind of things that bend or yeah, like threatens every aspect of every scientific book that has
Mhm.
been ever written about medicine. Like I suppose, like I don't know, like the CEO of this school of medicine would faint if he witnessed a Pachita, doing
Yeah,
surgery without any
right.
alcohol or like
Right. No.
he was like, no, no, wait a minute.
When you talk about when you're out of the body, then of course you don't have pain, let's say. I also, a few years ago, was having, I needed more surgery and I didn't know it. But I was in pain after the first surgery for 10 years.
All right.
For 10 years. And during that period of time, I could have had the misfortune of becoming addicted to pain medication.
All
Like when
right.
they talk about big pharma, I realized that if I could go back, that would be the one thing that I could have done was taken some kind of action against the doctors that treated me because they didn't do the right thing. And I could have died. I actually could have died. But I continued being in pain and doing different prescription pain medication, like the kind they talk about when they talk about big pharma. And I didn't want to do it. And I tried very hard, knowing it could become addicted, not to overdo it. I think I did it once where I didn't have so much pain right now that I'm going to take one anyway. I felt so good. So I
All right.
enjoyed it for a few hours. But generally speaking, it turned out that an infection under the hip replacement, the original hip replacement, after 10 years, I had acupuncturists, regular doctors, friends, maybe enemies, but everyone was saying, please go to another doctor. Maybe you not have to have more surgery, a new hip, a second hip. But you can't live like this any longer. And what happened is, it was a blessing in disguise. I became allergic to the pain medication.
Okay.
So that was the blessing, although I didn't know that at the time, because I didn't have the pain when I took it. So what was the blessing? Suddenly I couldn't take it because it would cause my whole body to itch and burn. And that was as painful as the pain I was having anyway. So I stopped taking it. I couldn't take it. The reaction was horrible. So what did I do? Nothing. Tylenol would never cover that pain. So I went for a year in extraordinary pain until this acupuncturist said to me, please go to another doctor and find out what's wrong. No, I don't want to go. I don't want to have more surgery. I've had enough. No, please, him, you can't live like this without the pain medication. But that was the blessing, is that I couldn't take the pain medication, or I could still be addicted to it to today,
Okay, yeah.
Okay? So the thing was, that's what forced me to go back to and find another doctor and see what was wrong. And they did an MRI and everything. And he said to me, well, the hip replacement was loose. And he said, it's sinking. And I said, sinking? I said, is it going to come out of my foot? Where is it going? So it was just moving down. I won't go into the whole thing, but when I finally agreed to go to have surgery, and this doctor said to me, a lot of doctors would have said, there's nothing we can do for you, and you'll be in a wheelchair. Or there are some people that say, I don't want any more surgery. I don't care if I'm in a wheelchair. But he was willing to do the surgery, and I was willing to try to get out of pain. And when I finally did it, and they opened me up, they took out the old hip thing, and they discovered a terrible infection. and that's what was causing the pain.
The pain.
But somebody said to me, Simi, it was lucky that for some reason the infection didn't go into the rest of your body, because if it did, then I could have died from poisoning. And it was like it stayed in one place. So then they called in all these experts on infectious disease to find the right medication for the infection, but it also meant that they couldn't put in a new hip.
Okay.
See, I'm laughing. So, and I remember the next morning when I wake up thinking, well, I finally did it. I did the second surgery after all these years. And the doctor's trying to tell me that there's no hip. I don't have a hip. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even sit up by myself. And
Alright.
I had to, they couldn't put it, they wouldn't put it in, do anything else until the infection was gone.
So you were hipless?
Hipless. I have a title for a book I wanted to write. It was called Hipless, Helpless, and Hopeless. But no more. I'm going to get over this. Because I laid in bed, and that's what I used to tell myself, I'm going to write about hipless, helpless, and hopeless, because that's me.
You should write a book, or at least an essay with that title. It's amazing.
Well, eventually I would like to write that. I'm trying to get back on the computer for some of the dreams that I had in Tepoztlan.
Yes, yes.
And so it's not writing about myself, I'm sharing these dreams, because some of them show you you can heal yourself.
All right.
And that's the first one that I'm working on. From a dream that I had in Tepoztlan that gave me a key to something. And anyone can do it.
That's amazing. Yes, you should definitely let us know when the book is out.
Yeah.
To get
Yeah,
a glimpse of
I'm
it.
halfway through it, sort of. But I don't know what's keeping me from doing it. I don't feel that it's writer's block, but it could be.
It could be. It's a tough time to be a lonely writer.
What?
A lonely writer. I've been finishing this script of the movie for 7 years.
Yeah.
It took me a while, but I finished it. But I think that every piece of art takes its own time of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I read something that helps me. It said, even when you're not writing, you're writing.
Yes.
I'm
through
always,
experience.
yeah, I mean, something comes up in my mind, and I go, oh, I could put that in the book, and I'll make a little note. So, because it's not going to be a big book.
It's not linear. Also, no? You can start from the middle and the end and learn the beginning, and suddenly it starts to assemble the puzzle.
This is the problem, is that I start editing. They say, don't do that. Write the whole thing and then go back and change whatever you want to. No, I start editing everything, and I have to stop doing
I
that.
think there's no such a unique way. For example, like Stephen
yeah.
King, he says that he only writes 6 pages each day.
But he does it every day.
But the pages are neat and clean, They are edited like only 6 pages, but it's like
It's
I'm
done.
going like 6 by 6.
Wow.
Like editing and
Okay,
reading.
everyone has their way. Thank you.
All right, Simi. So it was great. I think, it's like a first dialogue.
I just want to tell you one final thing so I don't forget.
Yes.
Because when you say if you get in the astral body, then you don't feel the pain, right? For a while, I was reading something about the pineal gland, and this is about 2 years ago, and when I started to have pain from other things, if I put my consciousness into my pineal gland, I don't feel pain. But it's very hard to do.
All right.
But I know that at times if I'm relaxing and I just try to just put my energy up there, then I don't feel the pain at that moment. So, but the pineal gland must have something to do with, getting out of your body.
Yes. That's where the astral core it supposedly is.
Also.
And I think that Descartes told the pineal gland the seat of consciousness. But yes, in these realms of the mind, like at the end, like there's this thing that does not identify with the human body, that it's painless inside of you. You know, when you live out out the body, it's not.
Yeah.
It's like a roller coaster, but that body, it's existing inside your body while you're meditation, for example. So you can access to dimension like painless or emptiness. I've experienced many emptiness feeling of no self, that I am not me, but I am that. You know, like I submerge and I am everything.
I still want to read that book, the I Am That.
I am that is great. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like every page like blows your mind. Alrighty, so
Okay.
this was our first episode. Probably we can have another dialogue, but
If you wish, now I would say okay.
all right, yeah. It took me like 2 times to convince you to do this.
But you're a very good interviewer.
All right, thank you. a lot.
You are. I mean, you make it easy to talk with you.
All right, yeah,
so-
I think it went
So
great.
don't thank me. Thank yourself.
Okay,
And I
thank
hope
you,
it's
thank you.
okay. And if not, please erase it.
No worries. All right, so yeah,